Now, Grooms is pointing out to something very interesting here, that Nintendo America has a market cap value of 62 billion and only employs 7,000 people. Meanwhile, Ubisoft, with a market cap of 1.6 billion, employs nearly 20,000 people. And Grooms is blaming this on the diversity, inclusivity, and equity bloat, which you can also add HR and salespeople, basically like anyone else that's there, not to actually create a video game, but to do anything else besides that. I mean, you do need the auxiliary staff, sure, but there is also a point where it looks ridiculous. Especially when a lot of people are looking at Ubisoft right now and they're pointing out how many of their games not only fail commercially, but they also fail to run properly on day one. So it's also a quality issue. It's not just subjective as in, well, you just didn't like the game, you didn't like the story. No. Like, the game, in some cases, doesn't work properly on day one. And even worse, they will have, like, these business deals where you pay $120 for a game so you can play it 2 days early. And then you find out that your saves won't work unless you delete them because they didn't patch the game properly. So, yeah, tough luck. But what's interesting about this is that there is some truth to it. I remember when Elon Musk bought Twitter, he basically fired more than half of the people working there. And everyone was like shocked and they were bewildered, saying that how is the platform going to run? Like, surely the platform is going to crash. Surely something is bad going to happen. And nothing did. Like, from a quality standpoint, Twitter is still running. And Elon Musk basically said that when he took over the company, there were 9 people supervising one person working. And I'm pretty sure he exaggerated a little bit. But from what I know, this is exactly what's happening at these big companies. And by the way, more people doesn't mean a better product. There is the saying that too many chefs in the kitchen spoil the dish, which is absolutely true. And I don't need stats in order to see that this is the case. I mean, look at video games from the past. They were produced with much less funding and far fewer people working on them. There was even a meme comparing Batman Arkham City with Suicide Squad. And they pointed out that the first game only had 1 writer. The second game had 2 writers, while Suicide Squad had around 6 or 9. And you can objectively point out that Batman Arkham City was a better game because when Suicide Squad came out, there was a lot of interest in it. A lot of people wanted to play the game. But because it was so bad, you noticed something very bizarre happening on Steam, that people were picking up Arkham City again. And actually, this old game, Arkham City, had more concurrent players than Suicide Squad did. So it is painfully obvious that there's something going on. Now, why do these companies hire so much auxiliary staff? Why do they hire the DEI bloat? And there's several reasons for that. The first one is legislation. Like, if you have a company in California and it has more than 100 people, you are forced by law to have an HR department. So you cannot just operate any way you want. Like, in some cases, the legislation forces you to have HR people. And most of the HR people come from these diversity backgrounds, from these universities where they're indoctrinated to think in a certain way so that they can influence company culture in the way that they like, which is usually woke. I'm sorry, I said usually. It's all the time it's woke. Like, I've yet to see a right-wing HR person. But there's also the problem that in certain places, the legislation forces you to have, like, DEI reports. So, like, if your company is going for public trading, you are forced by law in some states to actually have the DEI report, which means you need to hire DEI people that can do those reports, right? Because, like, not everyone is smart or capable enough in order to do them. Not everyone has student debt from going 6 years into the academia. But that's one of the reasons. And another reason is also if you want to make the loans from the investors, right? If you want to loan money from BlackRock, again, it's a lot easier if you have a consultant team coming up and they're looking at your games, they're analyzing everything that you do, and they're making sure that everything is compliant so that when you actually apply for the loan, you're going to get it. And this means, like, pretty much giving them the keys to the company. Like, everything that you produce in that video game has to go through the consultants. The art, the story, the message, the themes, like everything has to be approved by some of these diversity consultants, which is why you get to see like company-wide uniformity. And even various companies that should be competing with each other, they're still creating similar products. So like, for example, pronouns in games. Like they appeared all of a sudden, all of these games from all of these different companies now have pronouns. There is that skin disease, that vitiligo skin disease, and it appears all of a sudden in all of these different companies. It's almost like people were copying each other's homework. Androgynous looking female characters, body type A, body type B. Like, all of this is because despite the fact that the companies are supposed to be competing with each other and they're supposed to create different things, they hire some of the same consultants. So like a consultant like Sweet Baby is hired by 4 or more companies, and they have like the same requirements. It's like, yeah, you need to make your female characters more androgynous. You need to now use body type A, body type B, because if you use male and female, that's not inclusive language, etc., etc. And the problem with hiring these people is that while you may actually access the loan that you want, what they want to implement is not what the market wants to buy. So you can get the loan from BlackRock, you can access your ESG funds, but you're not going to be able to properly sell the product. Meanwhile, a company like Nintendo doesn't have to deal with any of this shit. They don't have the same legal requirements that American companies or even European companies have. They do not want to access these ESG investments because they're actually banking on the customer purchasing the product and making money the old-fashioned way. And probably they access their own funding and their own loans without having to be ESG compliant, even though they're not as profitable. It's still better than giving the keys to your company to some people that have no idea how to write or how to create a work of art. And this is the explanation. This is why Nintendo is not just a better company that produces objectively better quality stuff. This is why they don't need to hire 20,000 people. And by the way, like, think about it. When you hire 20,000 people and you have, like, different studios, like, you have one in France and you have, like, one in California and you have one in San Francisco, you have people speaking various languages and various customs and various culture. So now you need to hire additional people that are translators, that are helping the different teams that are speaking different languages to know what's up and to talk. Because, like, it sounds simple. It's like, okay, well, this guy speaks French and this guy speaks English. But, like, think about the code. Like, one person codes in French and another person codes in English. And oftentimes it is required for the person that codes in English to understand the coding in French. And while sure, you can find a person that actually speaks both languages, now add a German into the mix. Right? And add someone that speaks Spanish, and you're going to have a very interesting time just collaborating and managing the different teams.